That's the only reason you're here.
I know, it's the only reason I'm doing this.
Was the Dev Friday before Christmas, and that's all you get for $5.
All right, I just remember I forgot to mix it into the live stream. You got it there at the end, right, Mark?
Yeah, I got it. I heard it. Feeling good. Feeling good.
This is the only reason Mark decided to do the show today. It's because he just wanted to hear the nice Dev. You know what? I was going through some other royalty-free music, and I think I found some other ones we might want to try. I don't know. Are you prepared for that?
I'm prepared for anything, Tim. You know me.
I will say this is probably the best $5 that we've ever spent.
I think this is probably the longest you play this bumper too.
Yeah, probably. But this time, once we throw it through the automated mixing thing, then we'll be talking about it. Won't actually be playing. I'll have to adjust that automatic dip to make sure it plays it for longer. But it's been a while. I think I'm behind uploading 2 episodes. So once we get that done, we'll have an episode from October, 2 episodes from October. But we did absolutely no episodes in November. Not sure what we don't like about that month, but
like I always say, we are the worst and best developer podcast on the internet.
The worst and the best.
Because, we're the worst at uploading our shows, but, we eventually get them up there. The people like them.
Is that how it goes? Do people like them? I don't even know if anybody listens, Mark.
I have faith, Tim. I have faith.
We may have some people on LinkedIn. I don't know. We stream there now. It costs too much to stream anywhere else, apparently.
Oh, really? Price is going up?
Gonna have to pay. Well, you can only stream on the Twitter or X as it is, I guess, if you're a premium account or something like that. And I'm not ready for that.
No,
not ready for that.
We don't have the budget. We don't have the sponsors yet.
So. No, we do not. In fact, now I'm looking at LinkedIn. Is it even on LinkedIn? Yeah. Well, you see, this is weird because on LinkedIn, it used to kind of show in the back of your page. Like if you would go to my LinkedIn page, the stream would be live behind me. But now it just says it's kind of like here, Tim posted this. So I'm not sure. Like I think if you go there, you'll see the stream. But not sure. And then Restream is wanting me to switch everything. December 10th, they're going to switch us to the new
beginning
2.0
of all of our shows. It just sounds like a disaster.
It is a disaster.
We've done this for 87
this is
now?
episode 88.
88 episodes, and we still have no idea what we're doing.
No,
we're not any more professional than we would ever have been.
No, but some would argue we were more professional at our first episode than we are now.
Maybe
because right now I have a child singing "Let It Go" downstairs.
Well, it's a season for that.
apparently. Yes, and she sings it very loudly. She sings it very, very loudly.
So, do you have like what the Disney Christmas movies playing nonstop?
No, she just likes singing that very loudly. I don't even know the last time she watched. Maybe they probably did watch it recently. I don't know, but yeah, she just likes singing it very loudly. But no, every time I drop into Restream's like, "Hey, I know you're busy," and it's like, "Yes, I'm busy. I'm trying to get this thing online in the next 5 minutes." Like, but let us show you our 2.0 interface.
Ooh. And
I've never hit yes because come on, is that what you really want to do before you go into live stream?
No, I don't.
You want to change Tim, how it works?
I just want to talk to you.
Yeah, see. That's what this is all about. So,
and we keep talking about how to make a podcast at the start of every show.
Yeah, well, how not to make a podcast? I think how it goes.
Still trying to figure this out.
But they will have changed this interface. So next week, if we do it next week, because who knows with our schedule, the interface will be different because they're going to force us by the 10th of December apparently, and I don't even know what that's going to look like. So good luck with that, I guess. Anyway, what's up, Mark?
So it has been a bit of time since we last did one of these, right? I don't know, what about like a month, maybe?
A month and a half. Yeah, it was the last time we did it was the second week in October.
I know, so because you had a lot of family stuff going on, maybe I did too. I can't remember.
It was busy. You went to Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, I was in New York for Comic-Con. Yeah, So we couldn't do it for that weekend, for that Friday. So
I had most of, well, yeah, no, it is most of the kids. I had the younger kids while my wife went down to the National Bible Beast, so that Friday didn't quite work out. Yeah, it's just been a busy couple of months, or a month and a half or something like that.
well, how's work been? Is it kind of slowed down here as the year comes to close?
Maybe. I think everything else being busy, yeah, there's always less pressure, like, because there's not gonna, people are going on vacation, people are taking time off, there's holidays, so things do naturally slow down. Finished up a couple big projects, starting another one that we're going to try to squeeze in the next 2 weeks. Kind of, I don't know how exactly to explain it, that I'm more involved in from on the programming side.
Ooh.
So
Are you hands on keyboard?
Yeah, no, I still do that.
Look at that.
Yeah. I just not.
You're not
maybe
just
as
an
much.
idea guy, Tim.
No.
You actually lay some keys down.
Yes.
It's some
yes.
sweet hot PHP.
I don't know that I would ever say that. So, and I don't know that we should ever say that again. But yes, no, I don't think I thought that.
Well, this show is all about doing PHP hot takes.
Is that what it is? What's your hot take this week, Mark, on PHP?
Well, no,
We need a bumper.
I don't have anything this week, but
Mark's
I did.
take.
Well, I pinged you at the beginning of this week. Said, I just re-listened to episode 85 because that's the last episode that we have up on the site.
Right.
I was like, oh, that was actually a pretty good
What
episode.
did we talk about in episode?
Railing
85?
against WordPress and PHP, and
was
talk
that
about the
WordPress?
drama and that. Yeah,
yeah, that's still going on apparently.
I've been following it, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
From what I see on the Twitters, yeah, that's still a thing. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, no, I do programming. I still program. I'm not out of the game. So so there's some things, kind of like side. I want to say side projects. I don't know, like things that we're trying out that don't necessarily have the entire team's focus. That I'm working on. We're starting one of those. Hopefully, get it done by the end of the month, before people go for break. But yeah, it's a little slower, but everything else is busy. That's the thing too. Like, it's December, so there's lots of stuff going on, lots of things that the kids are doing. Last night was the high school concert that both of my daughters now accompany the Hamburg High School choir. Yeah, that'd be it.
Okay.
So they trade on and off playing the piano and singing. So we were there for that last night. So there's that. We're doing some Christmas stuff. There's going to be an event on Saturday, like a community event.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a booth there where we'll be handing out some crafts and stuff. So since it's a craft, fired up the laser cutter and cut out 120 little candy canes that you can lace up with some yarn. And
is this an event in the great city of Hamburg, PA?
No. It's up in Schuylhaven, so where our church is. So, and since you don't want to, like, if you're going to lace up, this is what's nice. Like, if you're going to lace up, it's just like a yarn lacing thing with a wooden cutout of a candy cane. But to lace it up, you need a needle, right? And one, I don't want to have to buy needles, and two, I don't want to give children metal needles, right? So just 3D printed a bunch of little plastic needles that you can thread. So every bag has a plastic needle already pre-threaded with yarn, and they can lace up a little candy cane and make an ornament. So doing that. We're going to do a puppet show for the Christmas program.
I don't love the puppet shows, Tim.
How about that?
I know that's your favorite.
Yeah, been
a
doing that for years.
Go by without a Tim puppet show.
No, they do. Actually, they have. But no, we're doing a show this Christmas. So I've not. It's been a while since I have built a puppet, right? So have you ever made a puppet, Mark? I know you did some puppet stuff, right?
I did.
Mark's thinking, this is not where I thought this conversation was going to go.
I don't think I've ever made one myself.
Okay.
I think I watched somebody make one.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's for those who don't know how puppets are made, and I know that's probably the demographic of this podcast. These people fascinating.
And if you are a developer listeners, I do have a developer topic that we could talk about.
Oh, do you?
We'll eventually get there because I will never shut down a public conversation.
So for those who don't know how they're made, many times it's like I want to say it's upholstery foam. It's not upholstery foam if you're making high-end puppets. It's a different type of foam that's more in line with what you would see in filters.
We could go down some rat holes here. The high-end.
Well, you know what this is? you went to Comic-Con. These are very similar topips, right?
For like the makers, cosplayers, that make their costumes. You mean?
Yeah. So some like what is that? The EAV foam or something like that.
Well, I don't do this stuff. But
EPA foam or something like that they laser cut stuff out. So that's not the foam that you make. That's not the foam that you make puppets out of.
Mhm.
But you'll use think of it as upholstery foam, and then you gotta shape it weirdly. Whereas you glue it together, it makes the shape, right? And you cover it in fleece or whatever your fabric is, or some monster fur or something like that.
Yeah.
But I stumbled across and this is more in the Comic-Con, like masks to make. Well, I mean, what is it like? Not Comic-Con, but more of the.
It might be masks, could be helmets, could be
right.
suits.
Well, no. I'm
like
as I'm looking, I was just like, I wonder what are people doing in like the 3D printing world with puppets, because I've not thought about that.
Many have asked that question.
Many have asked that question. Apparently, not actually that many, believe it or not. So I found some heads that are shaped as animals, so you can either make animal puppets, or if you like from the Comic-Con thing, the furries, the people that dress up as animals. So I thought that was interesting, because now instead of having to create a foam shape, you might be able to create a rigid 3D printed shape and then cover it with fleece or whatever you want to make. So just maybe got my mind thinking about like some of the higher tech tools and techniques that are now accessible, right? Because when I was making puppets 20 years ago, 3D printers were a big thing that some university had, and not something you could get for $200 on Black Friday, right?
True, that's true. Your family's like freaking out down there.
I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to see if
You need to make yourself a podcast room, Tim.
I've thought of, well, not for me.
A small little room, or maybe just for yourself, right? So like a soundproof room, just so you can go away. Tim's little closet, his space. You could do your hot PHP in, and occasionally do a podcast in.
My hot PHP in. What is this, like yoga?
Yeah, exactly.
Like first you crank up the heat so you're sweating, and then while you can barely keep your hands on the keyboard, you try to type out code. Yeah, no, we'll try that. I've thought about the soundproof room though, because some of the recording that my daughter's doing, it'd be like, yeah, it'd be cool to do it here instead of looking for a place to do it. Yeah, and I used to do recording.
So you want to get into some developer topics before we lose everybody or maybe we lose the one listener who decided to listen to our show randomly for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, what's up? Yeah, well, what's going on?
One of the topics that we always seem to go back to, it seems like maybe not a quarterly kind of theme, or at least maybe once or twice a year that we talk about. And I know with me too, over the past year, we talked about interviewing, right? So guess what we're doing at my company right now?
Are you interviewing?
Oh, we are interviewing. We are scaling up our team, and we are hiring some developers, because you know what, Tim?
You have no more AWS consultants.
And I'm the only developer. So, yeah.
So how would you describe your development team?
It's me.
Me?
It's me, a cloud engineer who's basically our operations guy, who handles more of the infrastructure. I deal with more of the application and the data pipelines, and all the processes that's on our platform, and that's runs like the actual code part of it. And then it's just me and him. Yeah, we have a security guy too. We have a security guy who mostly just works for like a security infrastructure, and that's it. So like the three of us right now. So we're looking.
So you have the heads of all the departments.
Correct. So we're looking to hire a cloud developer, like another application developer. We're looking to hire more of a. If we can find somebody, this actually be an interesting role. If you've ever seen somebody who kind of fits this role, that would be more of a kind of he would be a developer, but or he or her, it would be, or he or she, I should say, would be a more of a tester, more of an automated, like work on like automated testing.
Oh, it's like a QA engineer.
QA engineer, yeah, QA engineer, probably the best way to kind of specify that. So it'd be kind of responsible for writing unit tests, but also more or less just also working on automation of our infrastructure for our testing. So that's what we're looking for.
Now, I know you're built a lot on AWS, obviously, right? Doing data processing, things like that. Where is your application code all Like what are you using outside of that to serve up the application? Like to power the UI? Like what does that stack look like? Because I mean, you're looking to hire developers, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're gonna have some developers that are gonna work on the data processing that you're all doing
Yeah.
and things like that. But then somebody else is gonna be working on, well, how does the user interact with our system? What does that stack look like?
So basically, our platform is an integration platform. Like we integrate with other services. So from a front end standpoint, I think we talked about how we use Salesforce for, let's say, if there are any kind of client facing applications that feed data into the platform, primarily would use Salesforce for that. But also if there are specific applications for specific needs of our users, which are primarily students, like for an LMS, we use Canvas. So we integrate directly with Canvas and push and pull data.
So there's not a lot of UI for you guys. It's
Currently
really,
not, but
Gotcha.
that may change in the future, right? But what we do,
It's
which
got to be a little bit though, right? Like I got to sign in or give you credentials or figure out how to integrate everything, right?
well, then we also use like Okta, and we also use like
Okay.
automated service for that. So
Yeah, yeah.
usually our approach is we look to see, is there a third party solution that we can integrate with first to see if that solves our needs, and if it does, that's great. But if it doesn't, then maybe we'll talk about designing something our own. Which honestly, for doing this for over 25 years. I was talking about that this week with my guys. Where like I was on a meeting with a couple of the guys, actually doing an interview, and I was like, I realized, man, I'm like the oldest person.
Oh, that's always fun. That's always
I'm
fun.
like, man, it's like, but with time comes some wisdom, Tim. And
Yes,
the one thing I
yes.
don't want to do is to write a new application from scratch that I'm going to have to support when I could just integrate with an application that already exists.
It's gonna say dispense some wisdom.
Yeah. But we are talking about if there are specific, let's say very domain specific applications that we need to have on our platform, that we'll probably in the future going to be writing them ourselves. So I'll be starting to do maybe a little bit more front end work maybe in the future. But right now we just integrate with other applications like Salesforce and Canvas and other third party applications like that. From a build standpoint, though, we use
So, but if I log in with Okta, right, and then where do I go?
Well, since we integrate with institutions like universities, what we mostly use is a federated, single sign-on. Either they use, let's say, Microsoft or Google, whatever single sign-on federated system that they use. We primarily lean on for the students to log in. They're going to log in through their university account, but then we use Okta to integrate with that. So then it kind of all the other services that we work with, then Okta kind of fills those gaps.
So I'm never like I'm always redirected to something else.
Well, not redirected, but if you log into, now it's been a long time since you've gone to school, Tim. But if you log into your school account, you usually would have what's called a dashboard. And dashboard may provide
so
you'd
be there.
applications or services.
Okay.
And then you'd have, like, say, if you wanted to check your classes, your courses, to your course content.
And that dashboard's not yours. That's something else.
No, that is the institution's. That's correct.
Right. Okay. So it is really just you're just integrating with a bunch of different data sources.
Correct.
And then making sure that data is available through other.
Correct. So we're making sure, and like I said, what I do is mostly the integration from a data perspective. I'm making sure all the data between all those different applications move between each other.
Right.
Now there's another,
because if that's how your users are using it, it's like you're connecting different data sources and expecting that to be in something like what was the LMS Canvas or something like that. So you're needing to make sure data from here gets processed and then goes to there where it needs to be. So it really is that audit.
Yeah.
But who sets up those workflows? Is it you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're like,
that's a big part of what we do. Yeah.
Okay. So there's no like self-service for me saying, oh yeah, I want to connect this data to there. You're like, no, we see what you're doing.
No, we are the glue.
Okay.
And we use AWS glue a lot.
Bottles of Tight Bond behind marketing.
But like I said, we do use Salesforce, because Salesforce has a way, it's an application platform. It's not just a CRM, but it's an application platform.
Right. So you have a Salesforce application.
So we have a couple custom applications that we built.
Okay.
I've built them. We have another Salesforce developer, administrator, and we do work with Salesforce consultants that come in and help us build out applications. But we do use custom applications built on the Salesforce platform. We do need to have something custom.
Do you do custom applications in like the LMS too and things like that?
We do customization of, let's say, the core shells.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So the technical way to specify is the shell for the course. So we designed those because there's a whole other part of the business that I'm not involved with as much, even though that was my previous life in
Right.
regards to, managing the instructors, building out the course material, managing the courses, because these are our courses, our specific courses that belong to us. And we work with the instructors who teach them, but that's a whole other side of the company that I do not deal with, even though that was basically what I did in my past life.
Yeah. Has
So,
that been useful to like has the domain that you being very familiar with this domain, have you
yeah.
found that helpful even though you're not working, say, in that part of the company?
Oh, that's why they hired me.
Right. No, I
To
just
be
yeah, I
honest,
know that
that's why.
that was what that was
Yeah,
the
because they're-
benefit, but I just
they were-
like have you really seen that pay off?
Yeah, well, there's no gate me for like when I need to sit in a meeting with, let's say,
Oh yeah.
some administrators from a school, and we're using terminology, academic terminology. I'm there, right? There's
Right,
no
right.
need to get me up to speed. Now, I have seen other people who don't come from an academic background work in academia. It does take a while to learn all those acronyms and kind of just academic specific processes that are in place that may take a bit of time to learn.
Gotcha. No, I can see that. I can see that. You don't have to go through that like translation layer of like,
Yeah.
wait, help me understand what does that actually mean? No, you get it because you know the domain.
And
Nice.
then going back to the infrastructure part, because like you said, we primarily are built on AWS. That's our primary platform. But as a build system, we use GitHub. So we use GitHub Actions. And so integrate GitHub Actions with our CDK repositories that then push out our infrastructure on AWS.
So you
our
merge
environment.
into your mainline
Yep.
branch and then it's built and then
Yep.
deployed and things like that.
Pretty standard layout between, like, say you have like a sandbox, dev, stage, production environments, and then we have GitHub Actions that kind of coordinate between deployments between those. So using pretty standard practices for that.
So how's your interviewing going?
Okay. So what I thought about doing with you, which would be kind
Oh
of fun.
no. Oh no. Oh,
And
no.
I was worried about doing this because if somebody's listening
you
to this
didn't
podcast,
tell me.
well, that's true, because that's how our show rolls. I'm just gonna one of us will come on with an idea, and we're just gonna pop it on the other person and see how this happens. But I know, Tim, you're flexible. You are agile, right?
Let's go back to all the
You're
high
pretty much
tech.
a scrum master. You could just roll with anything, right?
All right.
So what I thought would be interesting is that I have a list of questions, and these are just very basic, fundamental questions. No, don't worry. These are just baseline questions that I ask in an interview for, let's say, a developer type role for our company. And what I use these as a baseline, saying, so if they could easily answer these, then we could then kind of dive into more kind of deeper topics and really kind of see how the breadth of what they change. But it has been
And
interesting.
if you're doing any actual, like you're not actual, I shouldn't say actual, like the code that you write, you're writing like from a Python perspective, I think, for the most part.
So we're
because
primarily, so
maybe some JavaScript, because those can run very well in AWS environments too as Lambda functions.
Well, it's interesting. The types of questions too. Even you're right. Our platform is primarily built with TypeScript and Python. So TypeScript is for our CDK. We do have a couple APIs with Express that we write in TypeScript. We also have some Lambda functions that we have TypeScript, but then pretty much most of our Lambdas, all of our Glue jobs are written in Python. For just using like Glue and Spark and or Panda, so like the libraries for Python. So so basically a TypeScript on Python shop. But the questions I ask, and I definitely want to delve into that, especially if I'm hiring a developer who lists on the resume they have some TypeScript or Python experience. Oh, I'll dig into that and kind of ask them some very specific question. I do have one question that is more kind of a general object-oriented question. So if you know any object-oriented language, you should be able to answer it. But I kind of thought it's nice to have like a baseline set of technical questions that really aren't specific to TypeScript, isn't specific to Python, but it is more specific to our platform. And just making sure that if I'm looking for a developer that can be comfortable with the general technologies that we use in our platform, that they have some understanding about that. So what I thought to do with you, and I have about 6 questions.
I'm just ready for the
we don't need to go over all of them,
where it's just like that weird Tim, TV screen that just goes blank and it's like, and it comes back and we're like, well, I guess that was a bad idea.
But I have a lot of faith.
The whole interview is gone.
You are one of the smartest developers I know. And that's probably not saying much, but
I was going to say, like, you know, a lot of developers, Mark.
of the small group of developers that I know, actually, but between the both of us, we actually know. Well, we do know some really smart developers. But I thought that
all of a sudden, I'm off the list. Now he's like, that come
I
to
started
think
thinking about, oh yeah, I know that guy too.
I mean, you're on the list of developers I know, Tim.
Oh, I'm definitely not the smartest one. All right, so let me just kind of roll through these because I actually think you're going to actually be able to answer these pretty easily. But I thought it would be kind of interesting to see your perspective on these questions for interview questions, and then to kind of also just see, okay, was that an easy question? Was it a hard question? You know, just give me some general understanding. And just like a formal interview, Tim, I do encourage you that if you do not know the answer to this, please let me know so that we can then move on to the next one, because I do not want to waste either of our time.
Oh, wow. I thought I was just supposed to Google it quickly while I made.
Well, that's been one thing. Okay. This is also, I've been wondering about this too. Okay. You give me sidetracked here because as we're doing interviews, I have been wondering. And when I did my interviews for this company too, I did have some notes, right? You got to be prepared, have some notes. But it is interesting. I do wonder, there was one guy we interviewed. I was wondering if he was trying to type along the way and trying to do a little chat GPT or kind of have some answers kind of sent to him. Cause I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Because all these interviews are remote, right? On a Microsoft Teams, Zoom style meeting. So we were watching them right through the video screen. And so I did wonder about that, but most people I just see are maybe just referencing the notes, which is totally fine. I don't care about that. All right. So question number one.
As you do this, I'm just looking like I know I have a doc and I don't know where it is of my interview questions.
Nice.
Because I've not had to do it. Did we do that once? Did I do that once?
We did.
Okay.
I think we did. Yeah, that's what it's saying. This is a theme that we usually do at least once a year. So I think it'd be kind of fun.
All right. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So if you were to design a service application on AWS with the following requirements, how would you generally do it? And all I'm looking for here is basically you can just list some of the services and maybe also specify how these services would be linked together. Maybe kind of like an order, right? So the requirements for this basic application, this application has to be a data pipeline. This application is scheduled to run once or twice a day. The application needs to ingest data from an API. And then after the pipeline gets the data from the API, it needs to be transformed and then stored in a data store.
Okay, so how would I do that?
I could step through. So let's say, the first
I would ask Mark, but go on.
Okay, so the first part is, for an API perspective, how would you approach that on AWS?
On AWS,
we need to integrate. Yeah, so you need to integrate with, let's say, we were talking about Canvas before, right? So we need to integrate and pull data from Canvas.
You said this is on a schedule.
It's going to be on a schedule. Right? That's also an important part of this.
So I would use, first of all, I'd use AWS. I think it's EventBridge, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And because you can tell EventBridge to run an event or trigger event or whatever on a schedule. So that's AWS's version of a cron job.
That's true. And you could actually schedule an API call directly to an endpoint. So that's good.
You can use EventBridge to schedule the API call.
I thought you already knew it, Tim. The way you answered that question.
No, because I was thinking I'd have to use Lambda or something to hit the API and put the response in S3 or something like that.
That would have been a perfectly acceptable answer too. You could essentially.
Oh, but you're telling me EventBridge, you can say hit this API and then store the result?
Well, the API would then store the result, right? So the EventBridge just kicks off the process.
Oh, you're saying the EventBridge kicks off the process and hits an API.
Yep.
But that wouldn't hit the Canvas API for integrating with Canvas.
That would probably, you'd have another Lambda function
behind. Right. Yeah, no, yes. So the EventBridge, events tied to a Lambda function. Lambda function hits Canvas API, pulls it down, and then I would say, based on since you want a pipeline, that would throw it in an S3 bucket. S3, then I would have a glue crawler that would look at that and say, look, new data, and then do whatever transformation I need to do on that. And then finally, I forget what they call that. Is it, what is it called? The AWS pipeline? It's not a pipeline. What is it? What do they call their pipeline thing?
Step function?
Step function. Yeah. Step function.
You could orchestrate it with a step function.
And then have a step function, then I don't know, tell somebody else to ingest that into whatever data structure you wanted, because I don't know, that's not specified.
Well, what type of data store would you use? What are the options they could use? So if you were transform data, how would then, let's say you had the transform data, then what would be the different ways you could store that data?
Any of the ones that AWS allows you to.
This is an interview.
You could throw it. I'm sure you can throw it in SQL. They've got that for you, right?
Okay. Well,
I'm sure they have like what RDS?
The RDS. There you go, Tim. That's our
they've got
There you go.
RDS.
Ding, 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 ding. That's what
Yeah, they could throw it in. Like, what else? They got
or they,
what's
or if you could just
big data platform.
You could also just say save it to another bucket. Save it to another partition. Right?
Oh yeah, why not? Yeah, because you could just throw it. You could throw your transform data in another
Yeah.
S3,
So
S3
there's
bucket.
multiple ways to store this data, whether or not you use a relational database with RDS or you just use a bucket or use DynamoDB, right? All I was looking for that last part, which is thinking, okay, well, what from their perspective, what type of options and what's your personal preference of if you're going to have the data transform? Which also I find is kind of interesting to know. So you're 100% correct. Like if you need to schedule something on a specific schedule, like once or twice a day, EventBridge, that's the way you do it. But you brought up an interesting question. Like, could you just use EventBridge to connect to an API directly, or just do it at Lambda function? And then the Lambda function would then trigger whatever process are behind the scenes. Either way would probably work. Yeah. So Tim, I think you answered that question very well.
All right. Look at me.
And like I said, that's the first question I asked because if you could answer that question well, and that's the first question, then I feel the interview is going to go well. If you're not able to answer that question, then I'm like, okay, this is going to be. I'm going to dig into some specific area, and then you'll see that the other questions here are kind of more basic, more kind of fun. So that's
really
I have been anticipating. Yeah. So next question is.
Oh, that's interesting because those are the tough ones when you start off with that question. You're like, this is kind of the baseline and sets expectations.
Yeah.
And like they have no idea
because it's also they could answer whatever the way they want to.
Right.
And I actually encourage that, right? Because I want to kind of see and they could also talk about maybe if they were lucky that they actually worked on a project that was kind of similar to that. That'd be nice. Talk about that project. Or if not, just from what you generally know about AWS services, you don't have to be very specific about how the integration points between the services, but just generally just talk about how you would, if you were tasked with, laying out a schematic, like a diagram of all the different services and how they kind of flow and the pieces together. That's basically what I'm asking them to do. Just to kind of talk through that.
Gotcha.
All right. Question number 2.
All right.
You got ChatGPT ready?
I'm actually sending a message because it's very cold out here and I'm trying to get running water back to the pigs. So I just want to make someone check.
We'll definitely have to talk about the pigs later on. Okay, so we should automate that process, Tim. Okay, so what are the differences between a relational database, a data warehouse, and a data lake?
Oh, come on. This one was easier. This is not the stuff that I deal with.
But just generally, just general, right?
Okay, so a relational database is your standard database, right? Like, so we all know that you have rows, you got columns, you've got tables that relate because you have foreign keys and all that kind of stuff. So the difference is, so we got a relational database, but you want me to these are good questions. I mean,
I know
maybe not
specific to your domain,
right? Not in my domain, but that's the same thing. Like when I'll ask, tell me the difference from a PHP standpoint. Tell me the difference between an interface, a trait, and an abstract class, because you should know those. Like you're using them, so it should be. When I say the difference, don't give me the definition of what they are.
Yes.
Why would you use this over there?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
And if you have a hard time and you confuse interfaces with traits, it's like, wait a second, no, you don't know this well enough. All right. So the first one was relational database. And you want that contrasted with a data warehouse and a data lake.
And there are similarities between all of these, right? So, but I want you to talk about just why would you maybe use, and that would be a fine answer too, saying, okay,
data lake. Let's go to data lake. At least my understanding of it. Data lake is a bunch of data from various sources. Data lake could include a relational database.
That's correct.
And it helps, the lake is just, okay, here's where all my data is. And then you can build looser coupling between it, saying, oh, this ID over here in this relational database is going to be the file name over here in this bucket or something like that. And that happens to be like maybe it's a structured document, maybe it's actually an unstructured document. But you can use the lake to relate data from different places. Now, the warehouse, I've heard the term, I kind of know it a little bit. But I'm not that familiar. My understanding, which could be way off, is a data warehouse is a good place to put large amounts of structured data that you need to query in very specific ways that you need to be performant, and you don't necessarily need to relate them the way you would with a relational database, where you're coming at the queries and they're like, hey, today we want to know this by this joined with that. You're going to put data in there that you know how you're going to get it out, because it's a lot of historical data.
There you go. Yeah, more for like analysis. That's correct.
Right. Okay.
100%. Yep. Good. And then you said the relation. We covered pretty much everything, right?
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
even. It's relational database is like so.
No, but you said tables. Tables.
Yeah, it's like it's so common knowledge.
Keys.
It's almost like I don't know how to tell you it. I use that to describe other things. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'll follow up to this.
Tell me what a word is, Mark. What's a word? It's like I don't know. I use them.
We're just trying to cover the basics here, right? So what are some of the differences between, and you could just list one or two differences between a relational database and a NoSQL database?
Oh, I mean, one uses SQL, one doesn't.
Okay, that would be a good answer. I don't agree with that.
Technically correct, which is the best type. Anyway, yeah. So a relational database has predefined relationships, which is why querying via structured query language actually works, versus a NoSQL database, which is weird because I'm pretty sure, I may be wrong, but I'm guessing there's some SQL-like languages that can be used to query NoSQL databases.
Yeah.
So a NoSQL database is just unstructured data. You don't have to predefine like
schema,
tables and columns and say that, hey, this data has these properties. You'll be like, no, this one has these properties, have this other shape, and you can query across those without having to you don't have to have the shape already defined before it goes in, and you don't have to be constrained to a shape to actually query it. You can query it without having to predetermine that shape of data.
If an interviewee said shape, I would just get so turned on by that answer, because I'd be like, this
is weird, Mark. I'm backing away from the mic.
No, but you know what I mean, because then I know they're into it.
Yeah.
They're in it, right? Because that's the way my mind thinks too. I'm like, yeah, because that's what I'm kind of looking for. Even if they can't use that word, but they kind of describe, okay, they say like you have like your columns, or field names, you have like maybe your, like we talked about before, primary, foreign keys, you have your tables, the relationship between the tables, and then SQL you have your keys, or your short key, your primary key that you could have, like just say, but you talk about either it's the scheme is defined before, is it defined on it predefined in the structure of the database, or is it defined when the data is inserted into the database?
Right.
So it's good. All right. Now, this one I know is definitely not your domain. Okay. But just generally, super general, right? So but you know what an ETL pipeline is, right? Like an ETL. Okay. So extract, transform, load.
Yep.
Also for processing data. So how would you use a Python script in an ETL pipeline? What is a Python script to use? Why would you use a Python script as part of an ETL pipeline?
I mean, I would guess that you primarily use Python on the transform side of it.
Good.
To say take data, because but you really might use it for if you're doing a crawling of a website. Python's going to be a great language to extract the data from that. But I think most of ETL, it's like extracted from our existing source, which is some type of data storage. Then I would probably say Python would be used to transform it before you pass it off to something else that would load it.
Perfect. Good job, Tim. All right, two more questions. Two more
questions. All right.
Now, I know you are a PHP developer, but you do know a little bit.
I hope this doesn't count against me in this.
You do know a little bit of JavaScript. So if you're gonna have a Tim Lytle resume, you would probably put, well, I'm familiar with JavaScript, right?
Oh, I know what I should put on there. Like when people stole my profile before, it was great because I saw what they replaced PHP with. I think at the time it was like Ruby on Rails or something like that.
So what I've been saying, the reason let me give a little context for this question, is I've been saying, interesting, the applications that we've been looking at, that everybody pretty much will list Python as one of the languages, because that's also when we're going out. Also, most of the applications we're getting back are from recruiters that are from an agency that are basically sending us applications, because we're not doing like a public kind of search. We're just kind of using certain agencies, and they send us applications, so they know specific languages and technologies that we want to focus on. So I'm seeing a lot of applications come back that just list JavaScript but not TypeScript.
Oh, okay.
So since we are a TypeScript shop, I do
Mhm.
want to just have some awareness of, are they familiar with it? So are you familiar with TypeScript? And if so, how does it differ from JavaScript?
How does it differ from JavaScript?
Yeah, in a very
Well,
basic way.
it has types, so there's that.
True. So yeah, honestly, that would be a good answer too. If somebody told me that, I'd be like, all right.
This was actually fascinating for me as I was talking with some of our devs that do more on the client side. I mean, I've used JavaScript. I'm familiar with JavaScript, but since I don't use it day to day, I forget how terrible of a language it is in terms of structure and declaring return and like being able to set expectations for anything.
Yeah.
From a type safety standpoint, things that now in modern PHP, it's like, oh, this is great. This is so useful. We can declare both what you're giving me, what I'm giving you back, very clear about the contracts of what's going to happen. In JavaScript, it's like, whatever, deal with it. And TypeScript, if I understand how TypeScript works, will compile down into JavaScript, but enforces type safety on top of it, requiring you to actually define the variable types and the return types of your methods and the types of your properties and things like that. And I feel like if you're running strict, like you have to be very explicit and be like, even if it's mixed, just you can't admit it, you have to say it.
Or a better way to say is transpile too. Does it actually compile?
Oh, it transpiles. Right. Is that because it's JavaScript? It's like it is JavaScript. So some things are changed. Some things are just like, no, this is JavaScript. Gotcha.
Perfect answer, Tim. Perfect. All right, last question. And since you are a PHP developer, I think this actual question is right in.
Is this the one object-oriented
in your
question?
lane?
All right.
Yes. All right, because that's the other thing too I've been saying, which is also an interesting thing looking at resumes.
Yeah.
Is that I may not see somebody who has TypeScript experience, which TypeScript is an object-oriented language.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I see a lot of Java, a ton of Java on these resumes. Oh yeah, a lot of enterprise developers are applying. So this last question is kind of, okay, this is kind of saying, okay, are you really, when you specify that you know an object-oriented language, like just testing that a little bit, right? And if you answer it very easily, then we could dig a little bit farther into this. So how are interfaces used in a class or as part of a class? Interfaces. Like I said, in any object-oriented language.
Yeah. Interfaces define, depending on the language,
but just generally.
But yeah, generally just define the structure of a class, then what it has to implement specifically in terms of what arguments must be passed to certain methods and what the return type must be and whether certain methods must exist.
Yes. So. Yep. Perfect. See, Tim. Well, we still have more people to interview at this time, but
you'll get back to me. Yeah,
but probably HR will be, following up with you about this interview. Maybe give you a little bit of feedback, or maybe not. We'll see.
Who knows? I'm done with my part.
We definitely appreciate your time. All right. So that was fun because I knew you would have an easy time answering all those questions, right? So what I wanted to get your feedback on was what do you think about those questions, especially for, let's say, some baseline questions for hiring let's say a cloud specific developer, like I say, it could be an AWS developer, could be Google Cloud, it could be Azure, whatever, but it could be, a developer is going to be developing in the cloud. What do you think about those questions as like just general baseline questions?
They feel like good starting off points. Like I'm assuming if I actually did more stuff in the cloud, those questions would prompt more discussion around why would DynamoDB be your go-to in this case? Well, I like Dynamo because of, you can have keys, but then you can also have secondary keys and you can index on either. And it's really good for pulling back because that's the type of data that I work with a lot. And it's like, well, what if you get so they feel like really good starting points, which is good because it's always awkward when I've run into this once or twice interviewing where it's like I have a set of questions and like after the first one, I'm like, I know I can't ask the rest of these. Like it's just not gonna work.
So what do you think? So that's also why I gave them in a very specific order. This is how I asked them probably two interviews so far. And we have some more interviews lined up over the next couple of weeks here. So that first question, my mindset, and maybe because I'm just going hardcore, I'm like, okay, let's just know from the start. Do you know what you're talking about, right? And
Right.
I want to establish that first, but should I lead in maybe with those other questions first and then leave that one till the end to kind of warm them up? That's why I've been thinking about it the first 2 interviews. Is my approach correct, or should I? I don't know. That's why I want to get your feedback.
That's a good question, because some of your other ones, like the like word Python fit in an ETL, describe the differences between the data. Like I feel like you get the same thing where if someone couldn't describe the differences between a relational database, a data lake, and a data warehouse, that you would run into issues like when you said, "Well, do this with AWS." They're probably not going to answer that either.
Yeah. So my intention with that first question, say this is a very specific AWS. Because I say we're an AWS shop. Right?
Yeah.
So everything's built on AWS. So specifically with AWS services, I want to establish what is those baseline services that when it comes to building out like a serverless application, because that's basically what we do. The rest of the questions, I kind of So if let's say if they're more familiar with Azure or Google Cloud, and they were maybe they could answer that first question in a very partial way with other platforms that they know, I'm totally fine with that too. But the rest of the question, I was just trying to make it more general. So no matter what platform you use, right, you should be able to answer. If you have some experience working with databases or working in object-oriented languages, you should be able to have some level of understanding about those.
No, I think they're good. Yeah, the one, yeah. No, I think that makes sense.
There you go. Well, also, if I'm also available for as a contractor for PhoneBurner. If PhoneBurner needs to bring me in to help you out with your interviews, don't worry.
Yeah,
I can
okay.
assist.
Good to know. Good to know. I will make a note of that right over here.
You'll get back to me.
Yeah. I'm sure HR will reach out to you. One question that I've always found I've found useful is, especially since like we tend to hire a little bit more senior developers. But I like starting out with saying, if you were in my shoes, and so from my context, if you were interviewing me to become a developer at a SaaS application, a PHP based SaaS application, what would you ask me? What would be the things that are important to you?
Oh, interesting. Kind of roll back on them, or do a little reverse kind of scenario.
Yeah, because to me, it's like I want somebody who understands like the context of the job that they're looking for. What is it what do they feel is important for that job? Because what they think is important probably informs a little bit of what and how they'll be, because it's what they feel is important. So I'd probably I'd be interested to see what reaction or what responses you'd get by saying, so if the roles were reversed and you were hiring me to be a cloud developer at your startup, what would be the things that you would be asking me? What would be the things that would be important for me to have? And ask that question.
Wait, am I supposed to answer this?
You could, yeah. I mean, but I think you kind of did because you gave me those questions, but no,
that's what I'm saying. We got to repetitive, but but I agree with it. I like the idea of asking them to kind of provide, how would they, that's what I'm trying to get to. How would they solve? So if they had to guide me in solving a problem,
right.
How would they do that? Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get to, trying to work. The other saying that if you're interviewing somebody and if you could see that person being your boss. You ever hear that kind of term? Like, would you work for this person?
But it makes sense. And that
kind of makes sense too. Like, that's also from a developer, like, let's say a technology perspective or like a skill set. Would I be comfortable with this person showing me how to develop or program or design a system, whatever, right?
Right.
Would I be comfortable with kind of handing this project off to them and them kind of helping me to understand how they're going to, make that I should make that solution. Yeah, it's good.
What I find the interesting things that come out of that question are they do reveal a lot about the developer. Like maybe they're like, well, I definitely want someone who is doing a lot of test driven development, make sure everything's tested. Okay. Yeah. Then you have a dev that's one of their focuses. Or maybe they're like, I'd be looking for someone who can really communicate well to stakeholders. And so they see the value of that. So something probably either in their experience or their personality brings them to the point of, these are valuable things to them. And it gives me a good idea of what they would be bringing to the team.
Yeah.
So 2 interviews so far.
2 interviews so far.
3 technically.
Well, this, I mean, for you,
This is-
true.
this is-
Well, Tim,
this-
I'd hire
this is-
you in
this
a
is-
minute.
This is the third. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
But you're too expensive for me, so that's why.
There you go.
So what's going on with these pigs?
What a change! What a change of topic. No, it's cold now.
So the pipes are frozen. The water's not getting these
It
pigs?
went from like, what in the world was has our weather?
It's cold
like,
outside. Yeah, it's windy,
this is
cold.
what everybody signed up for in this podcast: is 2 developers on Friday talking about the weather where they live.
No, we're talking about pigs.
But I mean, so it's been so warm, and then just the last 2 weeks, it's just like
switched.
dropped.
Yep.
And my younger pigs are annoying at times, and they've realized they can tip over their entire water bucket. So I need to strap it down to the T-post better, obviously. But right now I'm struggling because my water lines are pretty much underground, and I haven't got it all set up for the winter yet because the freeze came pretty quick. So I'm trying to thaw out a hose so I can get water down to fill up the bucket that they dumped. Because usually I can like fill it up when it gets a little warmer, because they're 30-gallon and 50-gallon buckets.
Yeah.
And they've got a warmer in there that keeps it, keeps that thawed. So it's like, oh, it's a warm day, let's fill them back up because the water's flowing fine. But now I'm trying to do it when it's, what is it, 32 outside? No, it's 28 degrees outside.
So did you get like an automated notification that the water was tipped over?
No, I looked outside and I saw that they tipped it over, and I grabbed it. And I
didn't
pulled
know
it
he had like
back.
a sensor or something like built
No.
into the. But weren't you doing that? You were kind of putting some more sensors or something.
I
around,
want
like,
to.
your farm.
That's
kind of
that's
have
one
it
of those.
more-
That's one of those. You know what it's like. That's
Yeah.
one of the many projects that I'd love to do, Mark.
So one of the actually cool things I talked about that I got for
Mm-hmm.
my apartment is that I have a cat. You probably heard it. Maybe
I did
occasionally
hear.
kind of
I
meow.
did, I
Yeah.
did.
So I do have a cat. And the cat is a sweet cat.
Oh yeah.
But man, that cat is annoying when he wants something, it whines. It's a
Oh
whiner.
really? Oh.
But it's a super
boy.
sweet cat. It will never swipe, never hiss. It's like the sweetest cat you ever see. But like once it wants something, like once get fed or
Just whine.
wants
Yeah.
attention, it'll just come up to you, just start whining like a cat. I'm like, oh, it's like crazy. But my daughter and I, we were away we went to our Tucson for a trip, for a family reunion trip, like kind of a pre-Thanksgiving trip, and we were actually away from the apartment for about 5 or 6 days, 5 days, or 6 days, including like for travel. And so we're like, oh man, we're gonna be away for this cat for a long time. So we need to and we did have like a full cat sitter who's going to stay at the apartment the whole time. We did have my oldest daughter come in and check on her a couple of days to kind of make sure to, give some wet food and, take care of them. But I need to have a way to kind of, keep track of it. So I bought an automated feeder.
Okay.
Also bought like what?
Wait. Do you even need an automated feeder for cats? Because I thought cats don't.
They can't overeat. Some cats can't overeat.
Okay, because I know I've heard that they were better than dogs with that. Because like a dog would just be like, food. There's more food. Yes, I'll have that food.
They could, but it's also good. It's all healthy for the cat if they get stay on a schedule, right?
Okay.
So you kind of give them like a little bit of food. If you're gonna feed them like 2 or 3 times a day, but you give them on a regular schedule. So I bought a automatic feeder from Amazon. I forgot what it's called, like Pet Libro or something like that.
Mhm.
But it has an app. That was the reason why I was so into this, because it could have like an app that could do the scheduling, and then it connects to the Wi-Fi that I could automatically change the schedule. Also, if I'm away,
Do you have a camera? Does it also show you the cat?
no, I need to do like a Google Nest if I'm going to do a camera. It does not
Okay.
have a camera, but that camera would actually be nice. But the other thing that I thought was really cool is I bought a water fountain, which I already had like an automated water fountain that would just kind of have like a pump.
Oh, but they can like step on it.
Well,
type
no,
thing, or-
so it would just be just pumping the water, be filtering and
Okay.
pumping the water. So I had like a cheap one, like a little pink Hello Kitty one that my daughter thought was cute. But I was like,
Okay.
oh, wait, actually, since I'm buying this automated feeder, the same company makes a water fountain that's a smart water fountain. I was like, whoa, what is this? So it's a wireless water fountain that connects to your Wi-Fi. It actually detects when your cat drinks water. So it was the coolest thing. When we were away, I would get little notifications of when the cat was drinking.
Nice.
And it would tell you how much it drank too. It had you do like 0.20 ounces of water, like your cat took a drink today, and it would kind of then you have like a log of all the times the cat came up to it. Because that was a nice way, since I did have a camera set up at the apartment, said, "Is this cat still alive?" I can at least be notified, knowing that the cat is still like taking.
Something is drinking the water.
Yeah, I wish there was some type. Which I don't know how you would do that, but it's interesting because it's actually detecting how much water. It's weight based. So it's also the interesting thing too is that the pump and the filter is built inside of the water fountain, and then if you want to just take it off its base to refill it or clean the filter, there's no wires between the base and the filter because it actually uses like a wireless connection to power the pump. So then it's super nice. So I don't have to worry about any wires going to the water or anything like that. So it's really nice. But then so I think what it's doing is just checking the weight of the water. Right, because the base is actually smart part of the device. So it's kind of detect. Okay, so when you fill it up, it detects how much the water weighs, and then every time the cat drinks just a little bit, it'll then be able to do. So it has a really smart scale into it. So
that's really nice. Yeah, that's like it's a microcontroller with a load sensor, a load cell, and that's really. So I was
pretty impressed with that. So yeah, I would definitely encourage the automated feeder. Absolutely need that. But the smart water feeder or smart water fountain, I should say, that's really convenient. But next time we go away, I do need to get like a Google Nest camera or something like that in the apartment. But I didn't have time to do that. But that's next on the list.
Keep an eye on things.
Right.
Yeah, the automated feeder concept, all that it's a different thing between a cat and a 200-pound pig.
How's that?
How's it different?
Yeah. Because I have no experience with pigs, so that's why I'm curious.
Pigs are smart and dense, very, very strong. So having a feeder that kept the food from them, I don't think it would work. I think they'd be like,
they just bust into it.
Right? I can get I can get this. I'm a 200-pound animal. I do what I want.
Yeah.
250 is about where where the weight gets. I mean for the Now our breed stock 350, something like that. They're big animals.
So do you just go out every day and just refill the feeder?
We just put it on the ground for them.
Yeah, but some you have to refill every day. It's not something like a big container you put out there like once a week.
Feed.
But
the feed we feed them because we don't want them to overeat.
Sure.
Because you don't want.
Yep. And they'll just do that.
Just a lard pig, essentially.
Yeah.
Now this is taking a different. We weren't ready to go here, were we?
Well, we're not talking about bacon yet.
We're not talking about bacon yet. No. But I mean, bacon is tasty. Bacon is good. So that's why. Well, we have. Do you know the names of our breed stock?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon's our boar.
Nice.
And then Francis Bacon is our sow.
Nice. Kevin Bacon, Francis.
Yeah. We have some other ideas. Should we expand that? But
weren't these the one you were actually going to breed?
Those are the two. Yeah.
That's
the breed.
So you don't have piglets yet?
No, I've got 4 of them out there. Those are the ones that keep knocking over the water.
Oh, okay.
So because they're they're.
How long when you have breeding stock? How long do they live for? What's the average age of a breeding pig?
Oh, I've heard them go 7-10 years. Depends on how. Wow, this is taking an interesting turn.
I'm just curious.
It really depends on whether or not they can still do what they need to do, right?
Yeah,
and that depends, on the animal. How healthy their litters are, how well they seem to be dealing with that.
Okay, so we have a few more. We'll take this even farther. I'm curious.
All right, yeah, we got some. All right.
So,
look at that! The bumper music's playing. What a surprise!
You're gonna have you're breeding some pigs. They're gonna have piglets. But you're thinking about and you're trying to do because you're trying to do a homestead, right? Trying to think about how can we kind of have this be an ongoing
some
thing?
people buy gold, some people buy Bitcoin.
Hey,
I buy pigs and chickens.
If the world ends, you're on my list of places I'm going to go to, right?
Yeah, I buy pigs and chickens. That's what it is.
I have a few supplies myself, but man, I'm just in an apartment. I gotta head someplace up in the hills.
There you go. Yeah. So yes. Anyway, so I've got. So
all right. So this is the Christmas season. I think we definitely need to keep up this schedule at least up to the new year.
I feel like we didn't answer that question though. Like you were asking a question about.
Well, we could follow up that.
Oh, we can follow. Oh, well, okay. We'll just keep.
We'll do a pig segment. We'll do. So I want to check out the pigs each week.
All
See how
right.
the pigs do.
All right. Got some
So-
interesting. Yeah.
So since this is the Christmas season,
Yeah.
we probably should do a little. Our also another favorite.
Oh,
segment
the
of ours,
holiday gift thing.
the holiday
Is that what
gifts.
we can-
Also,
holiday gifts. Okay.
I have no time for this, Tim.
Oh, no.
But I see on YouTube people are doing the Advent of Code again.
No, there's no. You gonna write it in C again? Mark's like, I do Advent of Code only with AWS. I don't know.
That's an
Glue-
idea. Maybe I
It's a
should write a
terrible
glue
one,
job.
Yes.
A glue
terrible
job
idea.
that'll solve. That'll be the most expensive Advent of Code ever. How long does glue job take to process this
Yeah.
Advent of Code solution?
And it just keeps asking questions of Amazon Q until it gets an answer that passes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds terrible. Are you going to do it?
Oh,
Yes.
but that would actually be an interesting problem. Like, what if your way to solve Advent of Code is to feed into Amazon Q or Bedrock and then spit out the solutions and have like an automated process for that? Hey,
There you go. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see
We'll
next.
We'll
next
talk
week.
about
We got. What do we got? We got 20 seconds left here. I'm telling you because we don't know this bumper music as well, do we? So we'll see you. We'll see you. Hopefully next Friday. We got a couple of Fridays. 3 Fridays. Three
Really?
Fridays before Christmas.
let's do it.
All righty. We'll be back here. All right. So
See, I thought that was a good developer show, Tim. We got it.
All
We always
right.
got. We got to baseline this developer show. We got to make sure we stay on topic here.
got back to it at the end there. All right. So let me turn that down so I don't play my stuff and other thing. I'm gonna end the stream here. And then I think I got to get to a meeting.